This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. Brian, it's a pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
brother. Look, we usually start this off by asking if you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs.
That's no, I don't. I do not. My dad was a teacher. My mom was a homemaker. Grandpa was a farmer. So arguably a farmer is an entrepreneur and takes the biggest risk with the littlest gain or smallest gain.
Yeah. No, It's funny. It's too bad Jason isn't here today because he's sick. It literally mirrors sort of the work he did growing up with his family, right? He was a farm family too. And he talks about how I think his greatest lesson to take away from that is you can't rush when you're farming. It takes the time that it takes, no more, no less. And it takes hard work. And so to hear that you have that in your roots, on top of teaching, I'm beginning to see how this takes shape. Now, where for you do things start to take a professional turn? Like at what point did you decide, okay, I'm going to go do this? And what was that line of work that you first stepped into?
So my journey is kind of a little different. It started with, Kiyosaki. I read the, Rich Dad, Poor Dad way back when it was on tape, like really tape, like not audio. It was like literally a tape, like 5 of them, I think they stuck in there. And I was on my way to boot camp for the Army, and I was listening to this thing in a Walkman, before they took it away from me and shaved my head. And then, so I was like, yeah, this is how I feel. This is what I think I want to do, but I'm getting ready to join one of the most institutional things that's out there. It's not entrepreneurial, but I had a very strong patriotic drive as well. Like, I was like, I want to do this, but I want to do this entrepreneurial stuff too. And so I got through boot camp and all that, and honestly just started the real estate investment journey alongside that paralleled my military journey.
Whoa, okay. There's another parallel there between you and Jason. Is he also was holding business? He was running businesses while serving, right? Now he did it for 23 years, but while staying in service. But your journey, you went into real estate because of the Rich Dad Poor Dad thing that you started listening to with Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, there was something he said. It was like he's like, how many homes can you afford to own that pay you $300 a month?
Wow.
And it just hit me. I was like, well, as many as I possibly can get, so that was his point, right? Was to do that. And so I started back in 2002 is when I started acquiring properties.
Wow. So how did the 2008 crash affect you? Because that had to be hard. Or was that perfect opportunity?
Honestly, here's the deal. And this is real estate is there's always an opportunity, a down market, an up market. It's just pivoting what you're doing, right? It's just pivoting what you're doing. Like right now, because, everything's getting, crazy inflation, the interest rates are high and all these so we just acquired a manufactured home dealership, and because that's the bottom of the pyramid, right? That's the bottom of the pyramid. Everybody's going to shift down the tier on what they're going to buy, and we're like, well, they'd have to shift all the way down to nothing before people start buying those. So that's what we just recently acquired. It's been, it's ramping up. So I started doing that alongside the military, started buying houses everywhere I went and buying and holding initially. And then I was like, I want to flip homes. And I volunteered to work for somebody who was doing that for free to learn actually the labor part of that first. Really what I wanted to learn was the business part, but I'll do the labor part. Ask tons of questions when you're around. And obviously he paid me, but and then I it's kind of a funny story. He's like, I was doing the labor, and these guys came by, and they're like, I was putting on a roof for the second time I've ever done it. These guys come by and said, you need help, and he was paying me by the job. I said, how much do you guys want to earn? And they're like, well, we earn this much, and I did the math real quick, and I was like, yeah, you guys could definitely work it. So like. I had them do the roof. I called the guy, so I could do 3 houses now at the same time. And he's like, well, why? How are you going to do that? And he drove by and I said, okay, now I'm going to have a project managed. And then, from there, I bought my own house.
This is fascinating specifically because it shows your coachability, right? Many successful entrepreneurs point to the fact that they had mentors or at least someone who was in a position that was further ahead than they were, that took a chance on them or opened themselves up to the possibility of working together. And you weren't afraid of hard work either, in that sense where you were like, look, I'll start at any role that's necessary as long as I get to ask all the questions I want, right? Because you knew where you were going with that. It was a means to an end for you, whereas some people are afraid of starting in lower positions, in particular younger entrepreneurs, because they're afraid, if I start there, I'll never be CEO. When it's like the complete opposite. You can't ever start as CEO. I mean, you can try, but that's not how it works. And so I love that in your story, we can illustrate the hard knocks of what it is. Because most people look at real estate, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go into the real estate game and I'm gonna get my license, make a couple of sales, and never having done any of the work to really understand each and every role that's required in an ecosystem of a real estate business, which is why I imagine you're like, hey, up market, down market, doesn't matter. The question is, what am I looking to do in that market, right? And because there's an opportunity always. And that's only something someone can say who's been on every level of the business itself, as opposed to someone who would panic if there was somehow homes that were no longer within their reach of their own financial capital, where I imagine you probably now at this point can go, oh, I know who I can pull together. It's a property going to get this done. Like there's a different level that I hear from you that you know how to operate on in this field that wasn't always the case when you first started out. Is this accurate?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you don't see your vision starts to open as you experience, and I always tell people, you gotta commit. You gotta show courage to go do something you don't know how to do. You're gonna increase your capability. Then your confidence comes. Right? So you're kind of going, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I can do this, but we'll get through it. Then you get through it. Once your confidence comes, now you can see a little bigger vision, and you can do the same thing, right? Do the same thing and stretch that vision beyond what you're able to see, understanding that on the backside of that, you're going to have greater confidence and capability as well. And then you just, continue to pull that forward.
What I love about your story as well is something that we sort of glossed over, is that there are a lot of people who are in this community who also happen to be veterans. And I have a lot of friends who served and then got out and didn't really know how to assimilate back into society. So as someone who has done that and succeeded as an entrepreneur, is there anything you can share as a tidbit or some kind of gem you can drop on how to sort of look at the process of reassimilating and also how to leverage the strengths of what training took place to bring that back into civilian society and really maximize your ability to get reach of your goals?
So I love that you're asking this question, because this is my most recent passion. And this is what I'm doing. Yeah, real estate's been my entrepreneurial thing. And I'm actually still active duty. I'm still active duty in the military. But I just launched, I've had a book published 3 weeks ago. It's called Cleared Hot. And it chronicles the year-long deployment I had as an Apache pilot in Afghanistan. And the whole purpose of the book is to take the lessons I learned from crazy experience of engaging the enemy and having my engine shot out and having all these crazy experiences that I call them life days you should have died, but you're still here, so you have a life day, right? And spoiler alert, I am here, so they all worked out. But I just launched this book because what I want from that is to teach not just not just veterans coming in transitioning, but anybody who's experienced trauma, anybody who's experienced trials or obstacles and has not yet figured out how to see that those are actually opportunities, right? Like this is the thing that is important, I believe, super important to understand, is that there's a reason we paint this picture of like guys who've gone to war and come back and now they're shells of themselves. And unfortunately, I don't like that, right? I don't like that. I know it happens and I am unfortunate, but I don't like that that's kind of the foregone conclusion. But the reason that that happens to strong men and women, good men and women, is because what they experienced was extremely powerful. Now, the awesome thing about power is it can be redirected. So the thing that is now is a millstone around their neck can be used and serve as a cornerstone and the foundation of a better, stronger version of themselves, right? That power can be redirected. A lightning bolt can kill you. It can also power a city. It's the same power. It just needs to be redirected. And so the same things that are, and these guys are not broken. I argue that they're not broken. They just haven't figured out, they have the tools, they haven't figured out how to do that stuff. And once they do, those things are superpower. We say it all the time. Hey, so-and-so grew up in this and started in this broken background and everything, and despite all odds, ended up in this awesome situation. I say, nope, that's not why. It's not despite those odds, it's because of those odds. That those things happened for him. That's what made him able to get to where he was. Those were opportunities, not opportunities that you raise your hand and say, give me that opportunity, but they are opportunities. And then when you're seeing them that way and you utilize them the way, that is powerful. That is powerful.
I love that, man. And, thank you for your service, which is something I should have said even earlier in the conversation. But I really do appreciate that we can get that insight even from like where you currently are right now, like just active and still maintaining your businesses and writing books. And, it just goes to show, there are people who grow up in neighborhoods and like you said, it's because that is their environment. And those are things that happen to them that they are driven to seek more, right? If something isn't necessarily challenging and it's really just, a walk in the park every day, when would you ever have the drive or the reason to get up and go do something, right? Which is then leads to insanity. I think it was Dr. Jordan Peterson was speaking with Andrew Huberman recently, where he was talking about this idea where a lack of stress and a lack of pressure can also create a lack of dopamine and opportunities to feel like you've accomplished something, which is the biggest currency, is that dopaminergic transference. And so I think it's really interesting that the stance you take on like those obstacles and that power just needs to be redirected, very kung fu in a way, you know what I mean? Where it really is about taking that, feeling it and using it. And I can only imagine had I been in an aircraft that had an engine blown out and I'm supposed to figure out how to survive on some Mission Impossible, I literally would probably feel completely paralyzed. So in that thing, is it a training that you underwent to be able to get you to move out of a paralysis moment like that? Because sometimes the regular person who hasn't ever seen a day of action can have an experience happen to them and make them want to quit right then and there. Now people can go, don't be a wussy or this or that, or whatever word someone wants to use, which, isn't politically correct these days. But is there something that you can offer for someone to just snap out of it and just take a step forward? Or is it just being able to train yourself to do that?
I mean, I always say everything's a muscle. It's weak until you train it and it's strong. Like that, everything is a muscle. And yeah, that's what we cover in the book, is like principles and techniques that can help fortify your mind, make you have more resilience, more whatever. And I did it in an attempt to prepare, but when I talked to the guys with letters behind their names, all those PhD type, the same steps and principles that we learned to prepare also repair. So it really is kind of so I'll use it by telling that story, telling one of the stories. We'll use one of the times that my engine did get shot at. So we were rolling in on an enemy and we hadn't actually shot them yet. We've been working with the ground troops to develop where they are, right? And because you don't want to shoot wrong. area, right? And then Apache can lay some hate, so you don't want to hit the wrong thing. And so we had just gotten good fidelity on what we needed to engage. So we were rolling in hot and in a bank, and all of a sudden I hear my co-pilot scream a blood-curdling scream. He's screaming because a bullet just shattered his femur and wrapped his leg around the control. And at the same time, my engine was shot out. And then when I went to go adjust the controls so we could fly, they were jammed. I didn't know it at the time. It's because his leg was wrapped around it. And so we're falling. We're falling. We don't have the power to stay in the air. He's screaming, and I don't have control of the flight control because they're locked up. So what's required there is, as funny as it may sound, the lowest priority on that list is him screaming, because I have to keep the spinny thing spinning for us to not go upside down, right? So, and then the flight controls have to be able to move for me to do that. In the helicopter, there's something called backup flight controls. You have to break the mechanical linkage in order to do that, and it takes some pressure. So we're in a bank falling, and I slammed them over to break that mechanical linkage to go into backup controls, which is a sloppier version of fly-by-wire, and the helicopter is like a drone, driver. But the funny thing is, Boeing says it takes 1 second for that to happen for them to take effect. And I always wondered, why does that matter? And I found out right then, because where I had to snap it, if it would have taken immediate effect, we would have snapped over the helicopter. So I remember thinking, as I'm breaking it over, please, Boeing, be right. Please have this engineered correctly. And so I did that. Simultaneously, I have to drop the collective limit, which is the control in my left hand, which makes the helicopter go up and down. We're already falling, but in order to recapture the spin, the inertia of that rotor, there's too much power in those blades, and so they're slowing down because they can't keep up with one engine. So I have to reduce the power required by slamming it down, which is counterintuitive because you're going to fall faster, right? To do that. So I did that, broke over, come back down, and we flew out. Spoiler alert, I'm here. So, we got through. And then I had to start working with my co-pilot to analyze his leg and wrap it and get the blood under control and then get him.
Oh, man.
Okay, so why do I say that story? Why do I tell that story? It's because of what you're saying, right? Do you just snap out of it? Or that takes a lot of preparation. There was no snap out of it. It was preparation before the emergency, prepping your mind before the emergency, and going through tons of scenarios before the emergency, thousands of times, so that it's all a reaction. Now you can do this in your daily life with all kinds of stuff, right? This is just an extreme example of how to do it.
Man, I will never be worried about a sales call ever again.
But you can do it on a sales call. You can do, but it's called chair flying, and it's really where meditation, visualization, and role play all had a love child. That's what got me to the position that I was able to react to that. And you can use it on a sales call, and that's something that I teach in that book, in Cleared Hot.
It's powerful, man. So Cleared Hot, this is released on Amazon and everything. I can order that.
It's on Amazon, and it's on my website at clearhot.info. But yeah, you can go pick it up and you can go through those techniques, and there's a lot more stories like that one in the book to teach them.
Yeah, brother. Oh man, it just goes to show, you think stress until you hear something like that. Now that's stress. And decisions are critical, and the wrong one has consequences. No, man, and this is all things that leaders need to be able to step up to and understand. Just goes to show, man, anybody who goes through service and sees action like that, after that, there's nothing that can't be accomplished if you put your mind to it, right?
It puts things in perspective. I have guys at work say, man, you don't ever seem to get amped up about stuff. And I was like, honestly, I learned, this isn't life or death, right? So why get amped up about it? And guess what? I also learned when it is life and death, it helps to not get amped up about it. So when is it good to get all ramped up and stressed about it? I can't find the scenario where it really makes sense.
Man, that reminds me of I think I was watching Ad Astra with Ben Affleck. Oh, no, not was it Ben Affleck? No, I don't think it was Ben Affleck. Brad Pitt, and he was training to be an astronaut and be out there. Yes. And they check like heart rate and everything, and he was like able to keep it at the lowest rate possible. And you're right. If there's anything I've noticed, it's most procrastination and challenges in entrepreneurship for making decisions and taking action. It's an emotional thing. It's not even mental because you know what you're supposed to be doing. The trick is, can you get into the emotion necessary to get action to happen, right? Man, I can't wait to take a look at your book. There's only a few things left to do here. The first is, if you don't mind, there's a huge shout out I want to give out to one of our supporters that made this episode possible, and that is Kelly Gordon. Kelly Gordon runs Cyberpreneur Inferno. It's a collective of people that can help you get where you want to be. And if you've ever felt like you started a business because you wanted more freedom and more time and more money, only to find out you have less and less of each of those because now you're up to your neck in work and you don't understand why it was supposed to be better. Well, Cyberpreneur Inferno is a collective that can help you save 10,000 hours or more learning things the hard way, with hundreds of other digital agency owners that can help you level up and get you the proven systems and processes you actually need. So you can try figuring it out on your own, or hit them up and let them know the War Room sent you. Use the War Room 15 code, get a couple of % off. And in 100 days, they can get you where you want to be. So go to get.cyberpreneurinferno.com/4x4 method and let them know we sent you. With that said, again, I want to reiterate, where do you want people to go, my brother? Where do you want them to? You want them to check out Cleared Hot, obviously, Brian. But is there anything else you want them to know? Anywhere that you want them to connect with you?
Honestly, yeah, you can go on clearedhot.info and connect with me there. Definitely get the book and pick it up. It's good. It's got leadership lessons in there, and it's got, really more importantly, how to strengthen your mind, right? And I think that applies across the house, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're not an entrepreneur, whether just across the board. See opportunity in everything happen, because this stuff does happen for us, right? That's the perspective. So yeah, that's what I would just at this point, that's all I want to do is help people with that perspective. That's my passion. I got the real estate stuff going. I'll keep that going. It's fun, but this is big. This is bigger stuff. So.
I love it, man. And it makes sense. That's what we make money for. So we can do the things that we actually want to do. Right.
Exactly.
Oh man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you bringing your experience and perspective to the script. It was an honor and a pleasure to have met you. I do hope this isn't the last time you and I chat. I want to stay connected, and thank you. There's only one question left, and that is, if you could have invited anybody to this conversation today, who would you have loved to have had here?
Sun Tzu,
the art of war, huh?
Yeah, because it's the art of war, but it's also the art of life. There's so much in there that's much more than about war. It's how you attack life.
Man, respect. Brian, absolute pleasure. Let's stay in touch, brother. I'm going to check out your book. With a story like that, how could I not? There's a collection of those.
Yeah. 22 chapters of them. Yeah.
Hey, there it is. All right, brother. Take care.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.